Knife's a little dirty. So I'm cutting the edge of the tar paper off right at the edge of the roof. I'm more or less sliding my knife blade along the edge of the roof. This is what we would call a rake edge. My distance here is under 10 feet, so I'm going to go ahead and cut my drip edge in half. Now the reason why I'm doing this is because I can get each side tighter than I can if I try to make two marks. If I make two marks and make two cuts, possibly I would have one tight and one loose, or I would make it too tight and then it won't fit. So it's easier and I can float the seam. A pencil, just a regular pencil, maybe a scratch awl or a punch is what I use to mark mine with. So I'm going to do it just like I would. Just want a little bit hanging over. Got my pencil, I'm just going to scribe it. So on the back of the metal I got a line. This is T-metal. It's what I call T-metal. Other people call it T-metal. Right to that point where the drip edge is and your mark, you want to give it a little bit of relief. You don't really want to cut it straight. Then you want to cut that off. Now on your T, cut your drip off here. On your T, you want to cut about a half inch long as a receiver for your other piece. Then cut your nailer, and you want to back off a little bit so your other piece won't hit. Now it's a square corner, which is the easiest one, so we're just gonna bend this back, and it's good to bend it a little further back and you can pull it tight. So now we just pull it to where it stops, and that's going to be tight. We want to get a nail in it over here where our control is. And then we don't want to pull it too tight, but we want it snug. Get one in the middle here, and then we can nail it off later. It's set. Alright, so now we're going to do the other side. The one thing we need is some relief in our T, because at this point, the code's around here, we got to lap this 3 inches. So just for fun, I'm going to mark it here 3 inches. We used to lap it about 1/4 of an inch until after Hurricane Andrew changed all that. So I'm going to cut a relief way back here, not quite at the 3-inch mark, and I'm going to take it all the way down. What that'll do is help my metal sit a little bit tighter. So I'm going to squeeze a little bit here, and I'm going to put it tight. Everything's nice and tight. Then again, my pencil here, and I'm going to scribe my cut. This can fluctuate a little bit because of this cut. Once I cut this, then I'll want to put it on. So this can fluctuate just a little bit, and I can always take more off if it doesn't sit tight. So here's my mark. So I'm going to cut it off, cut this piece off about 1.5 inches or so. That's tough. So we're back where we started with the other piece there. Notice I'm backing off a little bit so I don't come to a point so my other piece fits tight. A little bit of a relief right to my mark. Cutting it at an angle. Cut off my drip. I like to cut this off, make it straight. That gives the other piece a receiver. You gotta make it do what you want, or it'll try to steer you. It'll try to steer you. You gotta force it. Okay, so now you got the T and you got the face, and I'm gonna cut the T off. I want about 1/2 inch or so sticking out. And you can just come right up. But back off of that point a little bit so it's not a point. Alright, so I'm going to crimp it here. Tighten it up a little bit. I'm going to come back over here. Make sure I'm good. Make sure I'm good. I like it. I like it. So again, I'm going to nail my control first, which is my corner. And then I can come over here to this piece. Going through a double piece of 26 gauge. Need a little help. With this style of metal here, we really don't need to nail this. This is pretty tight stuff. Okay, so for this side, this is a shed style roof. So I'm going to do my tab up here, and I'm going to miter that corner down there. So I want to do my tab first and bring it down to my finished miter, which is down there. And I'm going to go ahead and do this all in one piece. Enough overhanging so that I can scribe and I can float this wherever I want. So I'm just scribing it right at the edge. This is more or less the same cut that we just did. I'm going to cut the tab. If you don't cut it all the way through, just bend it back and forth. Bend that around. I'm going to go ahead and use a 1/2 inch again, even though I may have to make a custom piece of metal up there. But I can always cut this off later. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up. I didn't really like how that bent, so you might want to use a pair of tongs or hand brakes to bend that if you want some really sharp corners. But if you just get it right and bend it back on itself and back, it'll be sharp enough when you put it on. Okay. I'm going to put it right where I want it. Then I'm going to come down here, pull this in nice and tight. I'm going to scribe it. And I can even scribe this one now. So if I was on the roof, I'd just cut it just right here, just like this. Which I am on a roof, I'm on a mock-up. Okay, as you can see, I got a line on the nailer and a line on the face. Now this drip edge is out just a little bit. It's off of a 90, so it's not so tight to the edge or to the fascia. But I'm going to go ahead and cut my mark. And if I got to recut it, I got to recut it. Just going to cut right on that mark. Then, as you can see, there's a little bit of a void, so I'm going to cut to it. I'm going to go ahead and cut my T. That's always tough. 2 pieces of metal. And I don't really need that line because I'm going to cut back to my other cut. And I'm just going to back off of a point. So I got to trim that. I got to trim that off. Watch out. I got to trim that off there. Okay. I can trim this just a little bit, just to get it off of that point. Squeeze it. This is where I messed up before. I left the T too long. I can feel it in here. I had to redo it. So I can go ahead and scribe it, but I'm going to need to trim the T off a little bit. Just 1/8 of an inch or so. Let's see if that works. So I'm cutting right on the line. I'm gonna cut. Gotta make that relief cut. Again, right on the line. Go down. Nope. Take the middle. And then what you can do. Alright, so I'm going to tap the T up. You can even tap the seam closed just a little bit. Let's see how that looks. Definitely looks good. It's pretty tight. Still got a little pinhole on it. That looks pretty good for a mitered cut. Then I'll put some more nails in it. So let's get on to the next side. So now I'm going to mirror what I just did on the other side. Except this time, all the way through. That was a little dirty. Okay, let's see if we got this. I'm gonna leave a tab in there. I want to lock in the T's. This one seems pretty good, but I'm going to trim it anyway. I'm going to make sure my top's on where I want it. Again, it helps if you have another person. Not always. So I'm just going to take a 1/8 inch or so off. Just for fun, since it didn't want to cooperate last time. Let me see that line. So this is my mitered side. So I'm cutting it right on the line. Then I got to make a relief cut. Then I'm going to cut the T. Well, it's hard to cut that thing. Okay. Then I got to cut that relief cut off. And if you don't quite get it, don't try to cut it with your snips, just bend it. So there's the cut. Again, you want to put it down so you can lock. You want to lock these two T's together. Nice. Definitely better crimp it. It's nice and tight. And it seems to be fitting nice and tight. I'm just beyond the metal here. Forgot something. Let's tap this up. So I'm just tightening this up here so it's closer. Pretty tight. That's what we want. So back over here, that's going to be our tab side. I got another tab side down there. So once I get the shingles laid, then I'm going to have a piece on top that's going to finish this part off. This would be called a shed style roof. It's just one plane coming to the top. Part's done.